السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: وما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Is asking questions regarding Islam, is this something permissible and desirable, or it's something forbidden and undesirable? There are some parts of the world where you go, you are forbidden from asking questions. Some countries, some regimes, you are forbidden from asking questions. You can't ask. There are some political parties, if you enlist or enroll, you're not allowed to ask questions. There are some cults, perhaps even some religions, where you're not allowed to ask questions. It's a dogmatic approach. What you're given, you take, without questions asked. So is it permissible to ask questions in Islam? For example, why is music haram? Why is Hajj wajib? Why is eating pork haram? Why is hijab wajib? Are we allowed to ask such questions or no? Here, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought is that you're not supposed to ask questions. If you are told to wear hijab, you wear hijab. If you are told that music is haram, don't ask why. Be submissive. Because Allah says that music is haram. The Imams told us that music is haram. Be submissive. Don't ask questions. It is not your job to ask questions. When you're told to do something or told not to do something, take it for face value and don't ask questions. This is one school of thought. Another school of thought says that you are allowed to ask questions. Rather, you are encouraged to ask questions. You may ask questions. You're invited to ask questions. You can ask regarding Islam, regarding Allah Azza wa Jal, regarding prophets, regarding the Imams, regarding laws, customs in Islam. You may ask. In fact, when you ask and you want to know the philosophy behind a law, and you're given a good answer, a convincing answer, you will appreciate that law more. And it is more likely that you will stay true to your religion if you understand it, if you're convinced. Not if you're told, if you don't do this, there is hell, and if you do it, there is heaven. This is the religion of slaves. This is how slaves are treated. They're told, if you don't do this, you'll be punished. And if you do, you'll be rewarded. What happens? The minute that a slave can run away, can escape justice, can escape the harm of his master, that slave will run away. If he will not be caught, if she will not be caught, they will commit the act that they're not supposed to commit. But if they are told why, if we explain to our children why pork is haram, not because Allah will throw us into hellfire, but why? When they ask and we encourage them to ask, and we give them a satisfying answer, they won't eat pork. Not because there's hell fire waiting for them. No, but because it makes sense. We believe that asking questions in Islam is encouraged. Not only is it permissible, but it's encouraged to be inquisitive and to be curious and to ask questions. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of the book. Ask the scholars of the Quran if you don't know. Ask. Prophets would ask questions. If asking questions was problematic and undesirable and unacceptable, why would prophets ask questions? We have instances in which prophets would ask questions. قال ربي أرني كيف تحيي الموتى. Ibrahim alayhi salam. He asked Allah to show him how he resurrects the dead. قال أولم تؤمن. Do you not believe, Ya Ibrahim? قال بلى ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. I do believe, but I want to be rest assured. Even a prophet would ask questions. Angels would ask questions. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. When Allah told the angels that I will put a representative on earth, قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا. You will put someone who will corrupt the earth, وَيُسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء, and will shed blood on earth. وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. While we are the ones that worship you and remember you. And they objected and they asked, did Allah burn all of them, banish them? No. قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know something that you don't know. Allah did not scold them, did not burn them in hellfire. He welcomed the question, but He told them that I know something that you don't know. Thus, we are encouraged to ask. This is our faith. This is our religion. We should learn it. We should learn ahkam. We should learn what is an obligation upon us to do and what we should not do. Why is it that in usul al-din, taqleed is forbidden? Taqleed is only for furu' al-din, for laws, for fiqh. When it comes to fiqhi issues, we're allowed to perform taqleed. But when it comes to usul al-din, we're not allowed to perform taqleed. You can't say that my marji' says that there is one God and we have to believe in the Quran and we have to believe in 12 Imams. No. The marji' here has no authority when it comes to usul al-din. You have to do your own research. You have to ask your own questions. You have to go do your homework when it comes to usul al-din. Taqleed is not allowed. This means that Islam encourages asking questions, encourages research, encourages us to go do our homework. I remember one year I was in Hajj. You know, in Hajj, some people are paranoid about their a'mal, so they come and ask questions. Did I perform my tawaf correctly? Did I perform my sa'i correctly? Did I, in Rami al-Jamarat, I don't know if I did it correctly. People ask a lot of questions. I remember there was one gentleman with us. He never asked. Nothing. From the first day of the trip, he wasn't asking questions. We went for Umrah. He didn't have any questions. And then we went to Arafah and Muzdalifah and Mina. Never had any questions. I thought to myself, and I knew that it was his first time to Hajj. But he had no questions regarding his a'mal. What are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do? Until the final day of Hajj, we had finished our a'mal. This gentleman approached me. He said, Sayyid, I have a very important question. I said, Alhamdulillah, finally this gentleman finally has a question. I said, yes. He said, how much luggage are we allowed to carry on our flight? I told him, which marja' do you follow? He said, what does that have to do with marja'? I said, no, it does. If you follow Sayyid Sistani, he only allows 20 kilograms. And if you follow Sayyid Al-Khoi, he allows 25 kilograms. We're encouraged to ask questions. When you go to Hajj, you have to make sure that your a'mal are correct. When you go for ziyarah, you're encouraged to ask questions. For salah, for sawm, Islam encourages. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We have a hadith that says, ثَلَاثَةٌ يَشْتَكُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. 3 will complain to Allah on the Day of Judgment. 1, Al-Quran al-Mahjur. This Quran that has been abandoned, that it's only sitting on the shelf. We rarely read it. We rarely contemplate over it. As for memorization, that's another story. Alhamdulillah, we have someone who's about to memorize the entire Quran. He's memorized 27 sections of the Quran and he has 3 left. And we're very proud of him. But we don't take the Quran seriously, unfortunately. This is a harsh reality. Al-Quran al-Mahjur, the Quran will complain on the Day of Judgment. Wal-Masjid al-Mahjur, a mosque that has been abandoned. We only come when there's a funeral, when there's a death in the community. We come to pay our respects, otherwise we keep the masjid empty. وَعَالِمٌ ضَاعَ بَيْنَ جُهَالٍ, and a scholar that is lost among the ignorant. A scholar that is not benefited from. No one comes and asks questions from him. No one asks a lesson from the scholar. He's lost. He's lost. The scholar is not taken advantage of. No one takes advantage of the scholar. No one benefits from the scholar. The scholar will come on the Day of Judgment and will complain to Allah Azza wa Jal that my community did not take advantage of me, did not benefit from me. We have a hadith. زَاحِمُ الْعُلَمَاءَ بِرُكَبِكُمْ. Go close. Of course, not during these days when there's social distancing. Keep your distance today. Go to the scholars. Go ask them. Benefit from a scholar. Benefit from that person's knowledge. This person has spent years researching. Benefit from that person's knowledge. Go ask questions. Hard questions. The questions that you've been thinking about. Your children have been thinking about. Your youth have been thinking about. Benefit from a scholar. Let me tell you this story. There was a marja, a scholar. He died over 40 years ago. A Sayyid Mahmud al-Shahrudi, who was in Najaf. Not the contemporary one that passed away recently, no. This marja was in Najaf. One time during the summer, and this was a habit, this was a custom for scholars of Najaf. In the summer, they'd come to Iran. The weather is a bit nicer. So he was passing from city to city. It was time for salah. He stopped in one of the cities at a local mosque to pray. He entered the mosque. It wasn't time to pray yet, so he sat. A gentleman came and asked him a question. The Sayyid replied. And then he prayed. He finished the salah and he left. After several cities, he said, wait. We have to go back. He said, why? He said, I just remembered I gave him the wrong answer. I thought over his question and I gave him the wrong answer. We have to go back. They told him, Sayyidina, we're going to go back. How are we going to find him? The man came and prayed and he went back home. How are we going to find him? He said, I don't care. We go back to the mosque and we find him and we give him the right answer. So they came back. And imagine, at a time when there's no WhatsApp, there's no emails, there's no announcements, they had to search for this man for him to come back and get the correct answer from the Sayyid. When they finally found him after many hours, he said, what was your question again? I gave you the wrong answer. He said, you came all the way to answer me? He said, yes. He said, Sayyid, I saw you sitting bored at the mosque, so I thought I should entertain you with a question. I didn't know that you were going to take it this seriously, so I asked you this question. We have to be careful with our questions. Our questions have to be serious. And a scholar has to be patient with people's questions as well. A scholar has to be patient. علم معه حلم. We have narrations. Knowledge by itself is not enough. Knowledge and tolerance. Because a scholar will be approached by all kinds of people with all sorts of questions. There are simple questions, there are tough questions. لا خير في علم ليس معه حلم. Knowledge and tolerance go hand in hand. Go hand in hand. A scholar has to be tolerant with people. All sorts of questions that they have, he should be able to answer and be welcoming of those questions. Now, those who ask, there are different kinds. We have narrations. We have in the Imam, he tells one of his companions, he says, Sal mustafhiman, la muta'annitan. There are some people, they come approach you with a question, not because they want to learn, but because they want to debate you, or because they want to impose their opinion on you. They want to teach you, but they can't come and teach you straightforward, so they come with a question, and then indirectly they want to impose their opinion on you. This is not the correct way. When we ask a scholar, we ask mustafhiman, genuinely to learn, not to impose our views. And this would happen with the Imams as well, with the Prophet and with the Imams. Some people would come and they would impose their views, or to strike fitna, or to make to start a debate. And this occurs even till today. Till today. I've had experiences. I'm sure the Sayyid has similar experiences. We go to a community, someone comes and says, Sayyid, what is your opinion on, for example, tatbir, striking the head with the sword? He's not asking because he wants to learn. He's asking to start a debate or to create a fitna. Because whatever you tell him, he already has his view. He's either very much against, so he's waiting for you to support and encourage so that he'll argue with you. Or he encourages such a behavior, he's waiting for you to condemn so that he starts an argument. There are some people that want to start a fitna, a debate, and this is wrong. This is wrong. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, إِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلْ تَفَقُّهًا وَلَا تَسْأَلْ تَعَنُّتًا. When you ask genuinely, so that you learn not to argue, not to debate, not to start a fight and cause a fight, start a fitna, or to impose your views on others. I've seen many, when they come to ask questions, they have an agenda. They're not there to learn from that question. Also, there's a popular saying that says there's no such thing as a stupid question. There is such a thing as a stupid question. Whoever tells you that, it's a mistake. There are stupid questions. There are some people that literally they ask stupid questions. You see them, they have problems in their lives. They have issues with their family, with their business. But they'll leave all of those issues and they'll ask about something useless. Something useless, something that doesn't benefit them whatsoever. That's a stupid question. I remember once I was in the shrine of Imam Hossein alayhi salam. We were praying behind my father. I was sitting next to my brother, Sayyid Muhammad. A gentleman came and asked my brother, and I was listening to him. He said, Sayyid, you know when Musa alayhi salam, when he left Madian, Prophet Shu'aib, and he was coming back towards Egypt. He stopped in Tur Sina at the fire next to the tree when Allah began to speak to him. Musa had cattle. He had sheep. What happened to his sheep? What did he do to his sheep? Subhanallah. Musa is going to hear what Allah is telling him. This gentleman is worried about the sheep. He's worried about the cattle. That is a stupid question. That is a stupid question. If he found out what happened, what is that going to do to him? What is that going to increase him? There are some people, once I was at a community, someone came and told me, Sayyid, what is the name of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas's wife? How should I know what Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas's wife is? I didn't know her name at the time. So he was very upset that you're a Sayyid and you don't know the name of the wife of Abu al-Fadl Abbas? Told him, no, I don't. Do you think I should take off my imamah? There are silly questions. There are so many important questions that we should be asking and researching and trying to discover and trying to know. We should set aside silly questions. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, حُسْنُ السُّؤَالِ نِصْفُ الْعِلْمِ. To choose your questions wisely, that is half of knowledge. To know what to ask. To know what to ask. When you're in the presence of a alim, of a scholar, and your time is limited, know what to ask. Choose your questions wisely. Don't ask questions that don't benefit you and don't benefit anyone else. طيب. Now, on the other side, there are extremes. On the other side, there are people that ask too many questions. They ask too many questions that they are not in need of. Sometimes we should not ask questions. There are, at times, what we are given, we take. Don't ask more. What happened with the people of Musa alayhi salam? When Allah told them, slaughter a cow. أن الله يأمركم أن تذبحوا بقرة. قالوا أتتخذنا هزوا قال أعوذ بالله. And then قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي. Allah told them, go and slaughter a cow. You know, the issue of the murder. There were two clans. There's a feud between them. Someone was murdered and they accused the other clan. Allah wanted to discover who the murderer is. Allah said, go and slaughter a cow. They said, which kind of cow? Which color? Allah told them which color. Which kind? Where? So they kept on asking questions. One question after the other. And this was wrong. And the cow that they finally found after so much effort, they didn't need to. They didn't need to. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, إنهم أمروا بأدنى بقرة ولكنهم لما شددوا على أنفسهم شدد الله عليهم. Allah told them to slaughter any cow, but they kept on digging. Which cow? Which cow? Which color? Which kind? Which area? Which land? Sometimes you don't need to ask so many questions. What you're given, take. You don't need to ask so many questions. Islam is simple, my dear friends. Islam is an easygoing religion. Sometimes we make it harder upon ourselves. Really. We make it harder upon ourselves. يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. There are so many principles in Islam that make things easy for us. قاعدة الطهارة. Everything is pure unless you know that it's najis. Why do you have to dig deep to find if your clothing is najis or the place that you pray is najis? You don't need to dig deep. Because Islam has given us a simple law. This is an example. Islam is a simple religion. It's an easygoing religion. We make it harder upon ourselves. طيب. Now, every question requires an appropriate answer. And this is very important. The question that we receive has to receive an appropriate answer. If someone with a basic understanding, with a basic education level asks a question, you give that person a basic answer. If someone sophisticated, educated, asks an educated, complicated question, you give him a complicated answer, a sophisticated, educated answer. You can't switch around. You can't give someone who asks a basic question, you give him a philosophical answer. No. Or someone who asks a deep question, you give him a very simple answer. It doesn't work that way. A scholar has to provide the appropriate answer for the appropriate question. The hadith says, نحن معاشر الأنبياء, Rasulullah would say, نحن معاشر الأنبياء أمرنا أن نكلم الناس على قدر عقولهم. We the prophets were asked to speak to people according to their intellectual capacity. To their intellectual capacity. That's why we find Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He would be asked maybe the same question, but it depends on who the question comes from. He gives different answers. To some people he would give simple answers. To others, he would give complicated answers, intellectual answers. It's the same person, the same Imam, but it depends on the one asking. What is their level of, what's their intellectual capacity? Today, my dear friends, our youth ask difficult questions, and we have to be equipped with the right answers. Those who ask about evolution, those who ask about democracy, those who ask about slavery in Islam. There are difficult questions that we have to provide logical responses, convincing responses. Otherwise, we will lose our youth. Also, this is very important, that sometimes if you don't know the answer, there's no shame in saying, I don't know. A hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, قَوْلُ لَا أَعْلَمْ نَصْفُ الْعِلْمِ. To say, I don't know, that is half of knowledge. There's no shame in saying, I don't know when you don't know the answer. Even if you're a big scholar, if you don't know the answer, there's no shame in saying, I don't know. There is shame in not knowing the answer, but giving a wrong answer, a false answer. That is shameful. That is embarrassing. But it's not embarrassing when you don't know the answer and you say, I don't know. لا يستحي العالم إذا سئل عما لا يعلم أن يقول لا علم لي به. There's no shame that when a scholar is asked and he doesn't know the answer, he says, I don't know. He says, I don't know. There was a scholar, a common person came and asked him a question. He didn't know the answer. He said, I don't know. He asked him a second question. He also didn't know the answer. He said, I don't know. He asked him a third question. Also, he didn't know the answer. He said, I don't know. He told him, what type of scholar are you? I asked you 3 questions and you said, I don't know. He said, what do you mean 3? Ask me 1,000 questions and I might not know. I don't claim to be the most knowledgeable person on earth. There's no embarrassment in saying, I don't know when you're asked a question and you really don't know the answer. There's no shame. Actually, it's commendable that when we don't know, we say, I don't know. There was one person, only one person, that would say, ask me, and I would answer you. Saluni qabla an tafquduni. Only one. No other Sahaba said this. Bring me anyone other than Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, who would say this. Saluni qabla an tafquduni. Ask me before you lose me. No other Sahaba, except Amir al-Mu'mineen. And if this was the only virtue that Ali ibn Abi Talib had, it's enough to prove that he was more worthy of the Khilafah than anyone else. Because no one else ever said this. Ask me. When you say, ask me, Ali ibn Abi Talib would not say, ask me, and he doesn't know the answer. He said, ask me, فَإِنِّي وَاللَّهِ أَعْلَمُ بِطُرُقِ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ طُرُقِ الْأَرْضِ. Ask me, by God, I am more knowledgeable of the highways and the paths and the roads of the sky than I am of the paths and the highways of the earth. إِنَّ هَا هُنَا لَعِلْمًا جَمًّا لَوْ أَصَبْتُ لَهُ حَمَلًا. Here, and he would point to his chest, there is knowledge. There is a chest of knowledge. But where are those who would carry my knowledge? Where are those who would ask me for me to teach them? Where are my students? إِنَّهَا هُنَا لَعِلْمًا جَمًّا لَوْ أَصَبْتُ لَهُ حَمَلًا. Amir al-Mu'mineen did not have the right students who deserved his knowledge. There were only a handful. Only a handful. Mitham al-Tammar, Ibn Abbas, only a couple. Ibn Hadid, Ibn Abi al-Hadid, who is a Sunni scholar, he's not Shi'i. He says, أجمع الناس كلهم على أنه لم يقل أحد من الصحابة ولا أحد من العلماء سلوني غير علي ibn Abi Talib. There's a consensus that no one other than Ali ibn Abi Talib would say Saluni qabla an tafquduni. It was only Ali ibn Abi Talib. Bring me any other case of a Sahabi that would say, ask me, and I would answer you. None other than Ali ibn Abi Talib. I conclude with this. We have a genre in the Quran, a theme. We have several verses in the Quran that begin with يسألونك ويسألونك عن الأنفال ويسألونك عن الروح. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was asked questions. And the Quran Allah tells him, they ask you, قُل وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you about alcohol, wine, and gambling. قُل فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. Say that they have bad attributes and they have good attributes. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. But their bad qualities surpass the good qualities. You see, this means that Islam encourages asking questions. If you are someone who's inquisitive, someone who has questions, come and ask. The Quran doesn't say, tell them that if you ask such questions, you're condemned to hellfire. That you have no place in heaven. You have no place in heaven. In Islam. No, on the contrary, the Quran gives them a logical answer. That alcohol and gambling, they have good qualities. Yes, you get to relax when you drink. If you're gambling, you make some money. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. However, the bad qualities surpass the good. Those who gamble, maybe once they win, but they'll lose 100 times. If you drink, you might feel good for a few minutes, and then you go outside and you drive, you kill yourself and you kill 5 others with you. This is a logical answer. In so many verses, I believe we have at least 14 verses that begin with وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ. They ask you. And then the Quran tells Rasulullah to answer them. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ. They ask you about the moons. قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ. Say that the moon is for people to know the timings. How did the Arab know the beginning of the lunar calendar? Through the new moon. They knew that this was a new month, and there's 12 months in the year. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلْ مَا أَنْفَقْتُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ وَالْيَتَامَى. They ask you, what should we donate? What should we give? The Quran says, if you give, then start with your parents and your family members and orphans. وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. This is a genre in the Quran. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ. About 14 verses in the Quran, Allah tells the Prophet that they ask you, so reply to them. Answer them. Rasulullah would answer people's questions. Rasulullah would wait for revelation. Allah would answer their questions. Allah wouldn't brush people's questions off. No. He would answer their questions logically, with common sense. He would answer people's questions. Tonight, my dear friends, could be the eve of Imam Al-Jawad's martyrdom. It could be the eve of the 29th of Dhul Qa'dah, which marks the death anniversary, the martyrdom of Imam Muhammad Al-Jawad. I conclude with this. Imam Muhammad Al-Jawad was how old when he became Imam? How old? 9 years old, I believe. He was the youngest. At the time, he was the youngest Imam. No other Imam, none other than Imam Al-Jawad had become an Imam at that age. So this was something new, a new phenomenon for a 9-year-old to become an Imam. Some might say, well, this is, it's like a monarchy. It's like the Emperor of Japan. When he dies, it goes to his child. And so too, when Imam Al-Rida died, it went to his 9-year-old son. It doesn't mean he had the credentials. It doesn't mean that he had what it takes to become an Imam. Shaheed Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, he has an article named Al-Imam Al-Jawad wal-Imama Al-Mubakkira. Imam Al-Jawad and the early Imama. He says this, and I conclude with this, that one of the biggest proof that Imam Al-Jawad at the age of 9 was a real Imam. It wasn't fake. It wasn't just because his father was an Imam and he inherited it. He was a real Imam. What's the proof? He says that the Imams of Ahlul Bayt were not a cult living underground. It was not an underground movement or a cult. No. They were available in the community. Anyone who wanted to visit them can visit them. Anyone who wanted to ask questions from them, they can ask questions from them. They were available all the time. Imam Al-Jawad was in Medina. The home of Ahlul Bayt was open all the time, available for anyone. That means people could have come and visited Imam Al-Jawad and asked questions. And it ties to our topic of asking questions. People could have come to Imam Al-Jawad and asked him questions. Now, if he was not able to answer, it would have been the talk of the town. Everyone would have come. They would have said, we met this 9-year-old child, we asked him a question, and he was not able to answer. But have you heard of a hadith, of a story, any history book that says Imam Al-Jawad was not able to answer a question? No. On the contrary, we are told that Imam Al-Jawad was brought into Al-Mansur's court. Al-Mansur put Imam Al-Jawad on the spot, and he brought all the other big scholars, like Yahya ibn Aktham and others, and he put him on the spot, and he asked him questions, and he asked Imam Al-Jawad a question, and his answer was better than the answers of all the other scholars. And this is the proof that Imam Al-Jawad's imamah was real and it was not fake. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the ziyarah of Imam Al-Jawad in this dunya and his shafa'ah and his intercession in the akhirah. May Allah bless you all. تقبل الله أعمالكم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.